Live from Starlight-City, tonight's report is brought to you by yours truly and most requested. Honestly, just trying to please him before we secretly scrap him because he's driving us insane. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sonny live from downtown Starlight-City. Good evening, everybody. This is Sonny, the news reporting robot, live from downtown Starlight-City, the sister capital of Starland. Today, I am here with my camera crew. Do you think our buddies in America can access the channels there? Seb, we're live. Sonny just then glared at the camera, which is him glaring at his camera crew of robotic partners, Spencer and Seb, who are both dark blue humanoid robots, with Spencer being both tall and thin and carrying recording equipment on a satchel on his waist, and Seb, a larger muscular robot who had a large boom mic on his back. Oh yeah. Anyway, today marks nearly a year of the mechanic's arrival in this country. The mechanic was first seen right here crashing into the ground in a successful attempt on taking back Starlight Tower, a mile from here may I add, to take back after the recently revived and unknowingly arrival of the Dark Robots on the 100th anniversary day of the Dark Virus's defeat, and had returned attacking the city and even taking over the tower in the process, alongside taking multiple Scortroxes and many robots, I add, as hostages. The mechanic has completed his mission with the help of several unidentified robots, and he's been defending on our city, the country, and even the world against the extremist entitled armies. He had faced them all in their growing army. They may come back stronger, but he will always come back even stronger. But as long as we have power and weapons coursing through this city, we are safe alongside the mechanic. This is Starlight-City, folks, the diamond of Starland, where nothing ever bad happens. Well, apart from lightning, that's quite common here, so don't be surprised if we hear some in the background. However, the sky had turned dark purple and it had gained everyone's attention. The citizens and robots all looked to the sky, all but Sonny, who was too oblivious to notice. Actually, quite scientifically, all abductants here draws the lightning towards. However, Sonny's camera then turned towards the sky in the direction of the Scortroxes, ignoring Sonny's rambling. It was revealed that it wasn't a normal storm that had caused the sound. Instead, the clouds in the sky began to group together and had completely turned dark purple, with strange lightning pulsing around in the sky. That's actually why many robots are made from starlight. He then noticed the camera was away. Cams! Face here, thank you. Sonny then grabbed Cams, who was their camera bot. What Sonny didn't notice that both Spencer and Seb, including the entire city, was now looking towards the sky. All but Sonny, who was too oblivious to still notice. He was too busy readjusting Cams back into his filming position. There you are. Sonny, quiet Seb, no talking during filming. Anyway, today, Sonny, they're coming. Spencer, you're the more professional one here. Wait, do you mean my fans? Sell out the merchandise then. No. He then turned Sonny's head towards the sky, and like you have desperate fans, look, you netbits. Sonny then noticed multiple projectiles had emerged from the clouds and were heading straight towards the city. Ah, I see. He then walked back to the camera. Technical difficulties, folks, it's fine. As you can see, nothing bad ever happens to this city or country. But as he literally finished, one of the projectiles crashed behind him, causing an explosion off screen. Well, most of the time. Although there is one minor significance. Minor? Understatement of history. Gear grenades incoming! Out of the blue, multiple projectiles flew towards the city behind them, like hail, causing multiple explosions when they made impact on the buildings and streets. One of the projectiles even flew into Sonny's hands, which was a bronze-coloured grenade with gear-shaped markings on them, which in his reaction he screamed in terror and threw it into the air, which it then exploded. Cams looked up, filming the explosion, in which the grenade released multiple regular bronze gears. However, immediately as they exited the grenade, they glowed dark purple and each gear transformed into humanoid robots who had an entire gear-themed design. They then each went into patrols and took from their waist power drill-like guns and held them in one hand and rested it in the other. They then began firing towards the buildings and citizens as an attack force. The citizens and robots of Starlight-City screamed in terror and ran for cover. More gear grenades, which were revealed to be the flying projectiles, flew through the sky like a meteor shower, exploding and releasing gearbots on impact, who began attacking the city, firing their gear-themed guns at the buildings, with each gunfire being blasts of brown-coloured bullets. As you can see, we're receiving our weekly Dark Robot attack. Behind him, multiple police vehicles race past him, going after the gearbots to defend the city. Long story short, evil entities are bent on destroying our world. Third time trying now, second time using dark robots. The police cars them from before, then proceeded to fly over their heads, completely countered by the gearbots in an instant. Be going on for quite a while now. Then, a Scortroxes police officer, an SCPD officer, Starlight-City Police Department, then walked over to him with a very blank look on his face with a small amount of fire on his hands. Sir, what is your opinion on the matter? Is 2 or 3 attacks per week too much or too little? But before he could answer, the officer was sent flying onto the floor by being hit by a bullet from the gearbots. Okay, well, you heard it, folks. Won't lie, I had the same reaction when I first saw them. Luckily, we have the mechanic to save us. Sooner or later. Seriously, how long does it take the dude to get here all the time? Now that we know they're coming, I suggest we run. We don't run away from the stories. Half your schemes nearly kill us. Today was supposed to be simple. No one likes a negative Nancy Spence. For someone who despises people calling you by the wrong name, you have no problem not calling me by my name. It's different, it's pronunciation. Sonny sounds so much better than Sunny. You're going off topic, what am I saying? Let's get out of here. Just shut up, dude. Behind them, a patrol of gearbots marched behind them, enclosing on several trapped civilians who they were about to fire at. Behind are one of the most common and predictable model Dark Star Iron robotic soldiers, the gearbots. The gearbots then overheard him, turned to him in disgust, forgetting that they were about to kill someone. The gearbots instead focused their attention on Sonny and his crew, immediately began firing at them instead. See, this is why you should listen to us, primarily me. They all dropped to the floor, avoiding the bullets. However, one of the bullets pierced his... That was new, you jerk! Sonny then simply pulled a new one out of his jacket, replacing it for the broken one. Sonny then noticed more patrols of gearbots were closing on him and Cams. Not only do they go on patrols, they come in squads or armies, from 10 to 200. This isn't a Blue Planet documentary, you egocentric maniac. Hey, what about me? You know our job description doesn't cover dark robot attacks, including our insurance. Fine, but if this is a smash hit, I get all the credit. Then Cams was about to move away from Sonny and in the opposite direction, but Sonny grabbed Cams, pulling him away from the safety and closer towards death, while Sonny was chased by the gearbots, charging after him for insulting them. You're coming with me. Cams shook his head, which in turn was his camera. I rely on you the most. I don't ask a lot. Cams in turn pointed towards the on-charging robots, then back at Sonny with a very sarcastic look, if you could tell. Don't look at me like that. Sonny then pulled both him and Cams into an alleyway to hiding behind several bins, which the gearbots then lost them. Then, the gearbots were then joined by 3 identical dark robots. They were each covered in dark blue armor and had cannon-like arms for hands. It almost looked like if they were carrying the cannons, one in each hand. And here are the second most common and recent Dark Star Iron robotic soldiers. The blaster drones. Stronger than the gearbots, they create powerful energy blasts from their cannon-like arms. Can't imagine what it's like doing things other than blasting. The blaster drones then overheard what he had said and instead pointed their cannons directly at him, and then began firing at them, including the gearbots. The blaster drones fired pure energy blasts of blue energy. The blaster drone's bullets were actually cannonballs in the form of blue energy that exploded on impact. I really should be quiet more. Listen more to Spencer. He then dodges another blast. For robots literally built for blasting, you have very poor shots. Sonny was then interrupted by another bullet, but this time it was light purple, piercing the recently replaced microphone. Oh, come on! The bullet came from a white metallic robot with dark and light purple lining over his body, who emerged from behind the gearbots and blaster drones. He resembled a police officer, however he had no morals about him. He was holding a futuristic white revolver, and instead of a police badge, he wore a badge with LDV on it in gold. Look at this, folks. We're witnessing another type of dark robot. Dark blade robots. Dark robots allegedly created directly by dark crystals, which they, when pierced into an item, transform them into a robot of destruction. Shot Blaster's the name, shooting's the game. Shot Blaster then took out another blaster, holding them like a gunslinger from the Old West. For an example, he's made from a Starlight-City Police Department standard gun. Shot Blaster then began firing at Sonny's feet to get his attention, and those guns are known to never miss their target, so in that... Get back here, you pile of scrap! Sonny then ran for his life, pulling Cams alongside with him, while Cams still kept filming the gearbots, blaster drones, and now shot blaster chasing after them, all firing both energy and bullet projectiles at them. Sonny and Cams then dive behind a car to hide from the dark robots, which the dark robots ran past, not noticing him. I'll forget this, the others should destroy him and the camera. Let's go back to sharpshooting. Multi-shot has already set up the shooting target. The dark robots then all turned around and exited the alleyway. Sonny and Cams both then looked up to see if they had left. Okay, I think they're gone. Cams then beeped at him, which was the only way he could actually speak. Now we are not staying here. Where's your sense of pride as a news robot? We're still live too. Cams then beeped in a counter-argument. Well, the camera is just as important as a reporter. Also, screaming in fear is very fair, considering that he could turn us to metal shreds with the snap of a finger, claw, or whatever they have for hands. Cams just sighed and looked at the ground, really only showing the floor to express his feelings. He then looks up at Sonny. Anyway, it's a good thing that it's only Shot Blaster is here. Can't imagine the situation if any more robots were here, such as... Before he could finish, he was interrupted by a car noticeably becoming hotter and brighter. It became so hot that it turned molten red, which then split apart, revealing that something had sliced it in half by applying a large amount of heat. It then dawned to Sonny that another dark robot was responsible for it. A dark red robot wearing a welding-like armor across his body, a gas canister attached to a blowtorch he was holding in his hand. His eyes were covered, however, by welding goggles with molten glass lenses. I love the smell of melting non-dark metal in the morning. He then held his blowtorch towards Sonny and Cams and released a blast of metal-cutting flames. Emerald Lord! Sonny just managed to dodge the flames before the flames instead torched some scaffolding behind them, causing it to melt down and snap apart and fall down on the remains of the car, narrowly missing Sonny and Cams. Melter then went to check if the remains of the debris, see if Sonny and Cams were still alive. Where'd you go? Hello? It was then revealed that Sonny and Cams had gotten away and were hiding behind some rubbish bins. He was holding Cams as if he was a regular camera, simply looking at him. The thing about every dark robot, they come in many different shapes, forms, and abilities to boot. Sonny then held up Cams above the bins, revealing that the entire area that they were was originally a prosperous area turned to a battlefield within an instant, with robots and Scortroxes of all types running for their lives, chased by dark blades and dark robots, soldiers, in all different shapes and sizes. You have gliders attacking from above. Camden looked up, showing small dark robots with triangular jetpacks gliding across the sky, dropping bombs on the people. And let's not forget the tall knights. He then pointed to two much grander looking dark robot soldiers, which were much taller, which wore red and orange, with dark purple highlight armor. Its helmets resembled welding masks, however, only the glass visors for the helmet visor. They carried a large sword with a tall handle-like grip, while also carrying a larger shield. Known for their adaptability, they could be seen to replace a leader for a Dark Blade robot, but they are known to be a lot stronger. And that doesn't mean they're limited to Dark Blade robots. Sonny then pointed to a dark robot which resembled a pavement breaker, with 3 pavement plate breakers for a hand and for its feet and a small chisel for its right hand, each attached to powerful pistons. It then punched an uninhabited car into the air by retracting its plate arm, who sent the car flying by throwing it into the air. For example, groundquakes. Another one with a humanoid body was wrapped around electrical coils attached to a strange battery attached to its back, which then pulsed with electricity which seeped through the coils, which suddenly pulsed with electricity, creating a menacing electrical form to the robot, who then drew out the electricity from several power lines, who then redirected it towards a building, causing an electrical explosion. Shocker. Another dark robot, which was red and blue like a magnet, with 2 smaller identical robots beside him resembling rectangular magnets, one being dark blue and the other dark red, was pointing his wrist towards several steel girders on the ground of a building site neatly piled up. He then sent a blue energy wave towards them, magnetizing them, which he then pulled towards him, spreading them out. He then changed his magnetic energy to a red wave, which then instead repelled the girders, which were flung into oncoming traffic, causing a large car crash. Then there's Magnetron and his 2 mini-bots, Pulse and Repulse, 2 smaller robots that are attached to another robot. Sonny then let go of Cam so he could then carry on filming. Sonny then got up from his hiding space, acting as if everything was normal and it was just a regular interview, even though there was absolute carnage and to spare everywhere. And let's not forget, it was then interrupted by a burst of flame shooting over his head. Flameture. It was then revealed that a flaming red robot with red armor and wearing a visor on his face covering his optics was wielding a large flamethrower connected to 2 gas canisters on his back. He was setting an entire area to blaze, even a treasured nature reserve in the city, turning into ash from the dark purple flames from his flamethrower. It appeared that this robot was simply enjoying the carnage he was causing, with a menacing smile on his face.
You damn weed!
While that was all happening, Sonny was just looking at him, greatly disturbed, as the psychopathic robot laughed. For various reasons, I definitely rather not go into detail about what Flanger has done. Immediately as he finished, there was a large fiery explosion off screen. It was so bright it even illuminated the entire area in a fiery orange light. He then just shook his head with the camera, dismissing the idea. Something's very, very wrong with his programming. Anyway, that's only just a handful of them. There are many more of them hiding away in the shadows. Luckily, some of them are complete duds. They were both then suddenly interrupted by the sound of spinning, as a small maroon-coloured tornado was heading straight towards them, completely out of control. Gah! The tornado then missed him and instead crashed into a wall, where the tornado evaporated, revealing that a dark robot had created it by spinning. It was dark maroon, and its physical appearance resembled a spinning top, even with its legs and arms shaped like a tornado. The robot looked extremely dizzy after he had finished spinning. Lord, they said they fixed the bugs. Spintoro was then joined by another dark robot, who was made from a golden key wearing a smart suit, which was actually built onto himself. I told you still had a spin limit before you crashed. You told me I had no limits. Well, apart from those two. Hey, it's not his fault he was made from a prototype. Neither my fault that they can't fix me, yet you will still rip me for it. They were then suddenly interrupted by a huge shockwave that sent debris flying everywhere, and the 4 robots each clung to for their lives to not be swept away with it. It was revealed that a very muscular Darkblade robot wielding a large sledgehammer, resembling a builder in builder's uniform with black and yellow bumblebee safety stripes, including a hard hat as well as a headlamp attached to it, and was the cause for the shockwave. That's how you wreck stuff properly and not screw up, Spin. The fact that you nearly destroyed the entire area. And us! That's the largest load of crap I've ever heard. I can't help it. You definitely can. Nonsense. Well, we're built to destroy. Nothing wrong with collateral damage. They all began arguing loudly about the point of destroying, not noticing Sonny was running for his life and Cams was still filming everything. At least they are all we have to worry about, thankfully. Only brought a few of the Darkblades this time. Good thing that it's only them. Why did I even think they wouldn't come? Cams then turned, showing a naval-themed humanoid robot attacking the city now, along with several gearbots and blaster drones. The robot, despite appearing like a naval officer, wore a white and ocean blue jacket, which included several medals attached to it over a built-on white shirt, and wore smart waterproof built-on trousers. He had large shoulders which resembled turrets and wore a naval hat on his head, with a badge with LDV embroidered on it in gold. He even wore 2 cutlasses on his belt on his waist. Introducing the Dark Robot Generals. Very dangerous, very powerful, and very characteristic for Dark Robots. They were the first of all the Dark Robots 100 years ago before being locked away in statues between then and now, and are back leading these new robots, and are now more powerful than ever. Word of advice: don't piss them off! And that's coming from me, and even though I know it's dangerous to even be here, so how about we just stay a meter or 900 away from them? But then, Navy then noticed him. What be this? A robot not turned to scrap yet? The Dark Robots all then began firing upon them. I love being the center of attention, but even I know this is ridiculous. Sonny then ran for his life, yet again, with Cams racing after him, as they tried to dodge every blast before diving for cover under debris, like World War I soldiers in a battlefield diving for the trenches. Where the hell is the mechanic? There was then a large explosion, sending the debris flying everywhere, including both Sonny and Cams, sending them flying across the street, showing that Navy then blasted them with his cannons. You think you could get away from me? Then, Navy was joined by 2 very different robots. The first one was was another humanoid robot. However, unlike all the other dark robots, it appeared a lot younger and smaller. It wore winter clothing despite the high heat. It included a winter trousers, a winter jacket over a snowflake t-shirt, scarf snood around his neck, surprisingly winter shoes and not boots, and a winter beanie. The most noticeable attribute to his appearance was that he had two different coloured eyes, ice blue and white snow, which was the colour of all of his clothing. He also wore a snowflake badge that was attached to his jacket, shining slightly. The second one, however, was much taller and appeared very grand. It resembled a smartly dressed humanoid robot which wore a smart magician costume accompanied by a large shoulder pad, cloak, and a large top hat. Unlike the regular black and white, this robotic magician was dark purple and dark red, and instead of a wand, he had a cane. His entire costume/body was covered with dark purple and dark red stars. However, they were placed in the center of pentagons, with lines around them forming a strange-looking star. You should have let the reporter interview me first. A pentastar like myself deserves acknowledgement here. You just won't quit when the camera's around, do you? They love me. Enough of your vain nature, Magic Illusi. We have a city to destroy. The mechanic knows we want all 15 cosmic keys for the Lord, so I suggest we take a direct approach. Threaten the pitiful lives of this world, exchange them all for cosmic keys he has, and find the rest. All of our other plans have failed, so I don't see why we can't take hostages. Makes more sense at this point. He's too weak emotionally to allow the innocent be harmed. What's better than destroying the beautiful lives of people and pouring hot oils over there? We'll use dark fire, of course, because any form of light is our weakness after all. Of course, we're frankly vampires when it comes to sunlight. However, they didn't realize that Sonny had recovered from the last blast and was busy trying to dig out cams through the rubble. Where are you? Oh, there you are. It was revealed that Cams wasn't only the camera bot, he was the camera. It was a standard TV camera, however, Cams floated around to get around. Okay, you're right, following the battle was a disaster of an idea. Happy now that I admitted it? But although I loathe the idea of agreeing with Spence, let's get out of here. Got the film? Yes, you still get paid, and your insurance covers the damages. Seriously, how do cameras get better insurance than we do? Sonny then carried Cams away, avoiding being noticed by the Dark Robot generals. Like I'd risk us being turned to stone again. The Magic Illusi and Cole then noticed that Sonny and Cams were running away, while Navy was still talking. Another thing to notice, I see the mechanic with our news reports nearly every time there's a battle. We've definitely got leverage with someone he knows. Navy, I hate to interrupt your prattling, not because it's more annoying than Magic's here. Hey, but that news reporter that you thought you killed is active and moving too. Very unlike. He then noticed Sonny and Cams getting away. Those damn reporting robots never stay dead, damn it! He then took out his cutlasses and rushed after them. No one escapes Navy's genocide. Come back here so I can cut you like mackerels. Stay away from me! Honestly, my dialogue is never that long. That's probably the second most egotistical thing you said ever. Since when did I say you couldn't help me and sit on the sidelines? Scrap that American news reports already! Oh, right, coming. Right. Cole then launched two projectiles from his wrists, which transformed into small robotic animal-themed creatures, a tarantula, a wasp crossed with a bee. The tarantula was ice blue and white, with 8 long, sharp and thin legs with cyan eyes and large fangs. The second creature, like I said before, looked like a wasp and a bee. It was large with bumblebee stripes, but instead of the yellow, was silver and ice blue stripes with 2 sets of wings and 6 legs, and a huge stinger. Why are you all obsessed with destroying the media? The 2 mini-bots, Frostweb and Freesting, then landed in front of Sonny and Cam, stopping them in their tracks. The Dark Robot generals then surrounded them both, pointing their weapons at him. Honestly, I thought you were more competent and would notice someone going away. So in reality, it was more of a surprise to me rather than anything. Please, we're all competent here. Then, a robotic Scortrox who resembled a court jester, which wore dark purple, dark red, green and blue clothing, including wearing a satchel around his shoulders, came over to them holding an armful of juggling balls, with the sound of lit fuses coming from them. Reggie, how do you turn off the exploding juggling balls again? You don't, they're explosives, they can't be stopped. They can't? He then looked to the juggling balls in distress, and then proceeded to throw them away if they weren't even explosive. All sorted. The hospital for the incurable diseases is on fire again! Okay, apart from him. Sonny then began to brace himself for the worst as the Dark Robot generals began to surround him, with them all about to fire their weapons at him and cams. It was revealed that the other Dark Robots were also surrounding other civilians and robots of Starlight-City and were about to fire at them as well. But before any of them could fire at the defenseless citizens, a silver bolt then fired down from the sky before striking a random gearball that was about to shoot a Scortrox. The gearball then suddenly turned to stone before exploding into millions of pieces within a cloud of silver smoke. The other Dark Robots near him were all startled and backed away for cover, away from the shooter. It was then revealed that the gearball had reverted back to a bronze gear and had dropped to the floor. The generals then noticed and looked over to where the explosion happened. Finally, he's here. But before they could react, they were suddenly ambushed by a figure landing where they were standing, creating a huge shockwave, sending them all flying across the street. The ground shook, and as the shockwave swept through the city, caused them all to fall to the ground as the wind was knocked out of their chests. After the smoke cleared, it was then revealed that whatever had created the shockwave created a small crater from where it landed. It was then revealed to be a Scortrox in armor, the hero of our story, who had the title of the Mechanic. The light created by the armor, glowing from the creator, made the Dark Robots in the area to back away from the light. A gearbot was then accidentally caught by a bit of the light by its hand, which caused it to turn to stone suddenly, but immediately reverted back after it went back into the darkness. Took your time, dude. What? Takes a while to get here every time. Okay, and where are the others then? Taking their time, that's what. There were gearbots cutting off the entrance from the bridge. Well, if you don't mind, we're leaving to film from a good angle. Cams then began to barrage Sonny with angry beeps as he thought they were going to be safe. What? Easier, it's now safe to film. Meanwhile, it was revealed that the Dark Generals had been crushed by rubble and that Magical Lucy was seen levitating the rubble off of himself and Cole and his mini-bots. What is with him and dramatic entrances? I mean, I like dramatics as much as the next person, but even I find it tiring when the other person is doing it. Suddenly, the unaltered debris were then suddenly blasted away by a blue energy, revealing it to be Navy's Hydro Cannon. What are you waiting for? It's 1 against 100. Literally, destroy him! As Navy said all the other Dark Robots then appeared, preparing for battle. We've got a score to settle. The Dark Robots then began firing down at the Mechanic, who then dodged all the attacks. While they were all battling, Sonny was seen running for his life, yet again, while trying to film everything with cams. Okay, I didn't realise this battle would be so explosive. Sonny then sidelined behind into another alleyway, hiding from the battle. Well, this broadcast has gone completely off track. Told you. It was then revealed that both Spencer and Seb, Sonny's other camera crew members, were hiding away in the alleyway. What the? Have you two been hiding here the entire time? What do you expect? They totally halved the city already. And it appears, as always, that I was right about the filming their battles again. Well, I got the film coverage on different types of Dark Robots though, and it looks like you half destroyed cams in the process, including yourself. Don't you look at me like that. Besides, the Mechanic and his crew has already taken care of everything. It was then revealed that the Mechanic was making quick work of the army and was still busy fighting them. Jekyll then came running over and proceeded to whack the Mechanic with a rubber hammer. The Mechanic just looked at him. Back at Sonny and his camera crew's point of view, Jekyll then flew past them and they watched him go by like a car. How dare you overcome my assistant? Why again did we come to this country again? As the battle continued, the Mechanic was shown using a long sword, slicing down the gearbox with each slash, causing them to spark, trying to slow then explode. However, during this battle, they were still being recorded, not by Sonic or Cat. Oh no. Someone else. At an undamaged building, a security camera was recording everything. It follows every movement of the Mechanic, then revealing instead of a red recording light to indicate it was recording, it was dark purple instead. It was then revealed that the Mechanic was being spied on, and that whoever was watching him had multiple computer screens, showing not only the recording of him battling right now, but of various other fights against other Dark Robots of all kinds from the past. Incompetent idiots. It was then revealed that who was watching them was yet another Dark Robot. This dark robot, however, appeared extremely serious. It was very large and extremely broad structured, which resembled muscles along its limbs. However, this dark robot was incredibly smart compared to the others, and his intelligence was equal to his power. However, the most noticeable feature was that he had a very noticeable eye patch on his left eye with a literal scar in the form of stone along with his eye where his eye should be. On his right eye, however, he had an eyepiece screen that hung in front of his right eye, which was green. I told them once, I'll tell them 1,000 times. Hostages are so terroristic levels, it's pathetic and a sad desperate move for us to take. Then, Zeus was joined by a tall and slender dark robot. It was a dark robot with very thin limbs. It appeared extremely intimidating, and despite the thinness of its body, he was covered in dark purple armor with dark green lining. Dark Robot's most intimidating feature was the large helmet it wore, which covered its entire face. A dark purple visor, which had no visibility to whatever it was covering. It simply looked like a black screen to a computer device. The robot looked as if it was staring at the computer screens and the mechanics battles.
I suggest we make a tactical retreat. It is obvious that Navy's plan was flawed, even by his high standards.
Tell me about it. Send out the order for them to retreat.
One planet. Is it so hard to ask for it to be simply destroyed within a day?
Forgive us, my lord. Once we are in possession of the 15 cosmic keys, we will finally be able to break you out of your imprisonment.
We will soon have the power to break you out, Master.
It was then revealed that the thing Zeus was talking to was a cylindrical force field which was impenetrable to either go in or come out of. Inside of it, however, was a dark purple gas that acted as if it was alive. Suddenly, dark golden eyes then appeared within the gas.
Once we have them, I shall finally be able to break out of this imprisonment, and once I do, the first person I shall destroy will be the mechanic and his team, then this pitiful planet, and I shall recreate it in my own image. And once that is complete, no one in this universe will ever stop me from destroying everything imperfect and recreating it in my own image.
Dark virus superior, all hope inferior.
Well said, Spyware.